America's healthcare system feels less like a lifeline and more like a bureaucratic maze, designed by those who've clearly never had to beg for coverage. The frustration cuts deep. Millions are drowning in skyrocketing premiums, relentless denials, and a system that puts profits over people. Insurance companies, raking in billions, allegedly use algorithms to deny claims faster than you can read the fine print. And let's not even get started on the endless hours wasted arguing with call centers that do everything but help. If this system was truly built to serve, why does it feel so crushingly heartless? Isn't it time we demanded a system that treats lives with dignity, not as dollar signs? The shocking murder of a healthcare CEO has unleashed a whirlwind of debate across America, exposing raw emotions on every side. Some are outraged by the violence itself, calling it an unforgivable act, while others argue that it's a symptom of a system that has abandoned millions. The simmering anger is impossible to ignore. When people feel crushed by a healthcare system that prioritizes profits over survival, can we really be surprised that emotions erupt in such devastating ways? Violence, of course, is never the answer, but this tragedy forces us to confront a bigger question. What has driven people to such a breaking point? Is this not the wake-up call we've been avoiding for far too long? The political fallout from this tragedy has followed an all-too-familiar script, with leaders scrambling to score cheap political points instead of addressing the core issue: our broken healthcare system. Some feign compassion while others seize the moment to fuel their ideological battles, but none seem truly interested in helping struggling families. It's infuriating to watch leaders who hold so much power wasted on blame games instead of delivering real solutions. With years of inaction behind them, how can they keep deflecting responsibility for a system that's failing millions? Maybe it's time we stopped accepting their excuses and started demanding bold, meaningful reforms that prioritize people over politics. Because let's face it, empty promises won't save lives. Economic inequality in America has always been a bitter pill to swallow, but tragedies like this shine an even brighter light on the stark divide. For years, everyday Americans have struggled to afford basic health care, forced to choose between life-saving treatments and putting food on the table. Meanwhile, CEOs sit comfortably, enjoying massive bonuses, luxury retreats, and private healthcare plans that most can only dream of. This disparity isn't just frustrating, it's enraging. How can anyone defend a system that rewards greed while leaving millions behind to fend for themselves? And as the rich grow richer and the poor grow desperate, the question looms: how much longer can this system hold before it finally collapses under its own weight? The media's handling of this tragedy has only deepened the public's distrust, offering shallow narratives instead of tackling the real issues. Rather than exposing the systemic flaws that fuel such desperation, many outlets seemed more preoccupied with pleasing their corporate sponsors. It's painfully obvious how detached their coverage is from the struggles of everyday Americans. When was the last time a millionaire anchor dealt with hours-long hold times or watched their loved one suffer because of a denied claim? Is it really too much to ask for reporting that prioritizes truth over protecting profits? If the media stopped pandering to the wealthy and started addressing the root causes, perhaps the real stories would finally break through the noise. Ask anyone who's been crushed by the weight of America's healthcare system, and they'll paint the same grim picture: skyrocketing premiums, denied coverage, and an endless cycle of financial stress. For many, it feels like the system is designed to break people rather than support them. The growing support for nonprofit healthcare reflects a desperate desire for change, one that prioritizes lives over profits. But is the country ready to take such a bold step forward? With frustration bubbling over and countless families being pushed to their limits, the real question is: how much longer can this broken system continue before the demand for reform becomes a deafening roar that can't be ignored? For years, the American people have struggled to access the basic healthcare services they need to survive, while the corporate elite, those very CEOs that oversee the system, lavish themselves with massive bonuses, golden parachutes, and benefits beyond the wildest dreams of everyday citizens. This staggering disparity isn't just frustrating, it's downright infuriating. How can anyone in good conscience defend a system that values profits over human lives? As the wealthy grow wealthier, ordinary people are left asking, how much longer can we keep pretending that this system is sustainable before it completely falls apart? The question is not if it will crumble, but when. Some argue that while the act of violence was unforgivable, the emotions driving this kind of desperation are not entirely unfounded. When you have a system that leaves people with no way out, no hope, and no support, Is it really such a shock when someone finally snaps? The real question is, how do we allow ourselves to get here? When a system is so skewed that it prioritizes profits over lives, can we honestly be surprised when frustration turns into rage? The anger brewing under the surface for so many years finally exploded. And now we must ask ourselves, is this tragedy the wake-up call we needed, or will we continue to ignore the deep flaws that led us here? It's easy for millionaire news anchors to sit behind their polished desks, delivering scripted lines and preaching about issues they've never truly experienced. But when was the last time they had to wait for hours on hold, only to have their claims denied by an unfeeling system? When was the last time they were forced to choose between healthcare and putting food on the table? Is it too much to ask for journalism that prioritizes truth over ratings? Maybe if the media stopped pandering to their corporate sponsors and started listening to the real stories of everyday Americans, we might finally start seeing some real change.